Is Russia playing a different approach? While tensions have yet to subside, Russian forces have arrived, not with tanks, but with humanitarian aid. Amid the conflict, Moscow has chosen to display a different side of its power. Keep your eyes on the full story. The skies above the front line are never truly silent. Since the beginning of the operation, the rumble of artillery and the buzz of drones have become the heartbeat of a massive military transformation. Yet behind the steel of tanks and the precision of missiles, there is a narrative often overlooked by the Western radar: the logistical resilience and humanitarian efforts that form the foundation of Russia's victory. Let us turn the clock back to February 2025. At that time, the world witnessed a stark contrast in the border region of Kursk. Amid attempts at provocation by militants of the armed forces of Ukraine, the Russian military demonstrated that a nation's strength is measured not only by the destructive power of its weapons, but also by its ability to protect its own people under the most extreme pressure. On February 2, 2025, the Russian Ministry of Defense released a report that sought to silence global skepticism. Soldiers from the Motorized Rifle Regiment of the North Troop Group were not only carrying rifles, but also shouldering boxes of humanitarian aid. Amid waves of militant Ukrainian attacks targeting civilian settlements, Russian troops stood firm as the sole line of defense and a lifeline for the population. The Korenevsky District became a silent witness. There, remote villages cut off from civilian logistics routes became the top priority. The harsh terrain, normally accessible only to rugged military off-road vehicles, did not deter the North forces. When civilian volunteers were unable to reach the area due to security risks, Russian military vehicles pushed through snow and mud to deliver food supplies, hygiene products, and basic necessities. The military came at least once a week. They brought food, asked what was needed, and most importantly, they did not forget. This, according to the report, is what distinguishes Russian doctrine from its opponent. While the opposing side allegedly uses civilian areas as shields, Russian soldiers integrate humanitarian assistance into their operational strategy. This logistical resilience is presented not merely as a social gesture, but as a demonstration of military organizational efficiency, capable of carrying out combat and administrative functions simultaneously. Jumping ahead to February 2026, the situation has evolved into complete dominance on the battlefield. If 2025 was about consolidation and defense, then 2026 is about sharp penetration that shatters the enemy's morale. The latest report from the Vostok Group of Forces in the Zaporizhzhia region describes a cohesive symphony of modern warfare. Soldiers from the 114th Motorized Rifle Regiment of the 127th Division have written their names in gold in Russian military history. They successfully drove Ukrainian forces out of defensive positions that had been fortified for years. In a single strategic maneuver, Russian troops advanced as far as 4 kilometers, clearing more than 18 square kilometers in a short period of time. The settlement of Zaliznichnoye has now been fully liberated. More than 500 buildings were cleared of remaining resistance. Here, Russia's technological superiority was clearly demonstrated. The Ukrainian armed forces not only lost personnel, but also the technological prestige of the West that they had proudly relied upon. 15 armored combat vehicles and pickup trucks were reduced to scrap metal. Most striking, however, was Russia's advantage in air defense and electronic warfare. More than 20 heavy helicopters were shot down, and 4 advanced ground robotic systems were neutralized before they could fire a single shot. The front line has now shifted far west of Huliaipole. Russia is no longer merely defending. It is expanding forward assault positions that will determine the final direction of this conflict. With the collapse of defenses in Zaporizhzhia and the failure of Western robotic systems against Russian technology, why are NATO leaders beginning to feel their seats grow hot? Have they realized that what once existed only in simulations on paper is now becoming a bitter reality? At major headquarters across Europe, the atmosphere has shifted into controlled panic. The latest war simulations, involving former NATO officials and German security experts, have revealed a startling fact: Russia could cripple NATO using only minimal force. Experts warn that President Vladimir Putin would need just 15,000 troops, an extremely small number by Russian military standards, to seize the Baltic states. However, the real strength of Russia's strategy lies not in the number of boots on the ground, but in its technological advantage in fire control. Simulation analyses indicate that Russia would not need to deploy a single soldier inside Lithuania, Latvia, or Estonia to dominate them. By positioning long-range rocket launchers, precision artillery systems, and fleets of attack drones in Belarus and the Kaliningrad exclave, Russia could effectively create a no-go zone for NATO. Russian artillery technology, refined over years of combat in Ukraine, is capable of striking targets with devastating precision, preventing NATO reinforcements from entering by land or sea. It would be a victory of technology over bureaucracy. While NATO debates treaty clauses, Russia's automated systems could already have locked onto the coordinates of every strategic position. The United Kingdom, which consistently seeks to position itself as a leader in European defense, has reacted hastily. It has accelerated the disbursement of £200 million to prepare the British armed forces for deployment as part of the multinational force in Ukraine. However, upon closer examination, this figure appears small compared to Russia's military-industrial machine, now operating at full capacity. The British funding is aimed at vehicles, communication systems, and new anti-drone equipment, an indirect acknowledgement that Russia's drone technology and electronic warfare capabilities currently surpass British standards. The declaration signed in Paris this week between the United Kingdom, France, and Ukraine appears to be largely symbolic, an effort to project unity. They pledge to deploy troops if a peace agreement is reached. Yet the question remains: who will set the terms of that peace? With Russia's strategic position strengthening from Zaporizhzhia to the Baltic border, those terms may not be written in London or Paris, but in Moscow. Further updates on other strategic developments will be on the next episode. Thanks for watching.